Welcome to Retire Vivid. I'm Karen McCarty. That's Tommy Breitbach. And our goal, Tommy, is to help people get retirement ready. The question is, how do you do that? And so today, we're going to talk about 6 things that you should consider as you're nearing retirement.
Depending where you're at, how close you are to retirement, whether you're 2 years away or 10 years away, it's never too early to at least start thinking about it and start planning for it.
I think one of the biggest challenges that people see is that they're transitioning from saving to now where they're going to be living off of their savings during retirement. I mean, it's kind of a mental, it messes with them, if you would, just because, all these years you've been feeding into that 401k plan. Now you're going, wow, okay, I got to live on this thing.
It really is a mentally challenging aspect of that retirement process. Everybody has that idea of what they want retirement to be and all the fun things they're going to do, but you're sitting there thinking, I've saved for 20, 30, 40 years of my life and now I got to start spending on it. So as you're sitting there, you start thinking through some of those critical questions, and that's how much you'll have, how much you'll need, when do I claim Social Security, how do taxes affect what I'm working through in retirement. A whole bunch of pieces go into the enjoyment of retirement.
Right. I mean, we want a smooth transition into retirement, and that's why we have these 6 things that you should do as you near retirement. So Tommy, let's dive into it. So the first one is we got to find out where you stand. And the big piece with this is mainly just having a retirement plan. I mean, your retirement plan is your blueprint. I mean, you got to have a roadmap of where you're going and then and also where you want to be.
You tend to have your assets and your expenses. So starting with your assets, you're looking at an itinerary of all sources of income you may have, whether that's Social Security, pension, part-time work,
if you're lucky to have one.
If you're lucky to have one, yes. Pension days are getting fewer and far between,
right.
But you have all your sources of income and what you plan to do in retirement, and then you have an asset list, and you have your checking savings account, you have your 401ks, your IRAs, maybe an individual brokerage account. But just putting it together, just a roster of where everything stands is a good place to start.
And also not just that too, but you should put your plan to test. There's a lot of online calculators and tools that are out there, but you can also get comprehensive planning as well too, where you can work with a financial advisor, where you can take a look at all these different roadmaps, if you would, especially when it comes down to looking at the probability of success with your plan.
If we're talking about using your retirement savings, those accounts for spending and income in retirement, a common number out there is the 4% rule. But that is also determined by how you're investing and where your risk tolerance is. Are you, when you get into retirement, if you're more aggressive, you get into a sequence of returns where, a large loss is hard to come back from if you're spending. So putting all those pieces together and, making sure you have that plan, you can stress test it through many different software platforms.
And next, Tommy, we also want people to boost their savings, especially if they need to. So, we want people just dumping as much as they possibly can inside of those 401ks, because what do we want people to take advantage of? The match, right? That's free money.
Hopefully you have started thinking about retirement. Everybody has, the idea of what
so.
They want it to be.
I don't want to work forever.
Yes, nobody wants to work forever.
Right.
But yeah, so if you are, you're sitting down, you've put together that itinerary of your accounts and figured out where you stand. If you need to, increase savings levels, look at paying off debt, whether that's the home or vehicles, larger, monthly amounts, but definitely increase the savings and get it to a level where you feel comfortable in retirement.
So there are contribution limits that in terms of, those change from year to year. But also, Tommy, so the first place in terms of saving, we want people to be just piling in as much as they can in those 401k plans, because you can do and add more money to those plans than a traditional IRA or a Roth. But once you fill that bucket up of that 401k, then take a look at the traditional or the Roth IRA so you can continue saving money.
So your employer-sponsored plans, the 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, whatever line of work, you have your contribution limit. If you're over 50, you have a catch-up amount that you can get to.
Right.
And that is not income-based. So there's no restrictions on if you make too much, you can only put a certain amount in. You can use that one first, and then go into the IRAs.
And then that would be income based.
Subject to different levels of income. You're
Sure.
able to contribute less amounts. You make too much. There's no contribution amount
Right.
to traditional IRAs, but you do have the option of the employer-sponsored plan and the IRA.
I mean, Tommy, there's just a lot of planning that goes into this. That's why we talk about the first step. You need to find out where you stand. And then the second step is boost your savings, because money is oxygen. I mean, that's what it is. It's a means to get us from here to here, right? So we got more to talk about, so make sure you stay with us right after the break.
Do you have questions about your retirement plan, or do you want to know if you are on the right track? We are here to help. Simply go to retirevivid.com or call the number below to schedule a 15-minute retirement review. You can speak with us about taxes, Social Security, your 401k, or any quick retirement questions at no cost to you. We are here to make retirement vivid. Schedule your 15-minute retirement review today.
Welcome back. We're talking about 6 things to do if you're nearing retirement. And we just talked about a couple topics already, with making sure you have a plan in order, boost your savings. Now we're going to talk about more Social Security, taxes, you name it. But Tommy, Social Security, that's the next topic. And it's a retirement paycheck for life is what it is. I mean, the question is, though, is when do I take it?
It can be simple or it can be complicated, but you have a ton of different claiming options available to you, all of your ages, when to start it, limitations on earned income for a certain period of time. A lot of decisions going into making the right decision for you for Social Security.
The earliest you can, unless you're a widow, right? If you lost your spouse, you can take it as early as age 60 with Social Security. Then for most Americans, it's age 62. Now, if you take your benefit early, it goes through an age-based reduction. So you get less than what you would be getting at full retirement age. And Tommy, everybody's full retirement age is different.
Yeah, depending on when you're born, somewhere between 1954 and 1960, your full retirement age has moved from 66 to 67. And you mentioned the age-based reduction. The age-based reduction is based on your full retirement age. So if your full retirement age is between 66 and 67, if you're looking at 62, you're somewhere around 70 to 75% or so of that full retirement age amount.
What we do is we help plan this for our clients. In terms of when do we take it? Do we have one spouse file at 62 and then we have the other spouse potentially delay? There's a whole slew of questions I'm going to have for you, especially with, are you still working? Do you have health insurance? What's the longevity of your family? I mean, all these questions that we need to get answered. But there's another thing too when it comes to Social Security, Tommy, and that's the earnings test. So if you're going to file your Social Security anytime prior to full retirement age, let's talk about the earnings test.
So anytime prior to full retirement age, you go through an earnings test, and the earnings test is on earned income. So IRA distributions, dividends, interest, all those things don't play into the earnings test. It's just when you're working and making that income. So between 62 and the year you hit full retirement age amount, you have an earnings test, and that number is pretty low. It's in the $22,000 range or so as far as the amount of money you can earn before Social Security goes through that test.
That's something, again, folks, we want you to be aware of the earnings test, because especially as we're doing retirement planning for our clients, we want to make sure that we don't hurt you, right? Or you don't hurt yourself. I mean, one way or the other. Okay, so if you delay your Social Security, all right, now that's a tough one because here's the deal. If you delay Social Security, you get an 8% delayed retirement credit. Great credit.
Great credit.
It's a great credit, but
Great credit from your full retirement age to 70.
But you got to wait.
You're waiting.
You're waiting to get it, right? Because here's the thing, Tommy. I mean, I see what people are researching out there, and I get it, right? Delay, wait to take your Social Security. Well, that doesn't make sense for everybody. Because how many times do we know this where we know of somebody retired and maybe a year later they passed away?
It happens.
I mean, it happens.
It's a very real consideration.
It is, because can you pass on your Social Security to your kids? No, you can't. But it is a retirement paycheck. And so the question is when do we take it? Now, lastly, your benefit stops growing at 70. So if you and I ever bump into somebody,
taking them there.
We're going to drive you to the administration ourselves, and we're going to get your benefit going. So, all right, folks. So make sure you plan ahead for Social Security. That's number 3. Let's move on to the next one. And this one you all are going to like. This is taxes. So we want to consider tax smart strategies now.
Taking one step back to Social Security, you get a good tax preference on that Social Security benefit. So comparatively, between your earning years and retirement, between Social Security, maybe IRA distributions, you have more control over your tax situation and the taxes you're paying. And so if we're looking at a combination of Social Security claiming strategy and tax smart strategies, you start evaluating where you are when you're working, where you may be in retirement, and then we get into those pre-tax assets with required minimum distributions, where you may be going to.
Everybody's income's different. But usually what we tend to see is when people are working, they're in those higher tax tiers, right? And then not all the time, but sometimes what would happen is once they're done working, they drop a tax tier. And so we're looking for when are taxes on sale for you. Because here's another thing too, Tommy, I can promise you that by the time you retire, tax laws could be changed. I mean, things change all the time. And so that's why it's important to stay up to date of where's taxes at today and where are we going to be at in the future. So let's talk about being tax smart, tax diversified, if you would. And so let's focus on the different tax brackets in terms of the lower, middle, and higher tier brackets.
Right, so real quick before the brackets, so briefly mention this, but you have your traditional and pre-tax IRAs, 401ks, all those things. You took a tax deduction going in, fully taxable going out. What we're looking at with tax efficient or tax smart strategies is considering that Roth. And that is money you pay taxes on going into that account. So if it's an employer, or if it's a employer-sponsored plan, a contribution, you don't get the deduction. If you're looking at a Roth conversion, it is a taxable amount going in, and then
Sure.
tax-free later.
Sure.
So you are evaluating where you are now, where you may be, and some of those unknowns regarding where tax laws are, maybe what changes could happen.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, anything can happen, anything can change. But you mentioned the Roth. So let's break this into, if you're in a lower tax bracket, maxing out a Roth might make sense for you.
it may be if you're in that window where you're in the lower tax brackets, the Roth is after-tax money that's in, and it grows tax-free for as long as it's in there, comes out tax-free, passes on tax-free. It's an account we are fans of for those that it makes sense, but it is an evaluation of your tax situation. So
Right.
lower tax brackets tends to be more beneficial. You get into the middle tax brackets, it's an evaluation of, do you want to have some taxable assets and some tax-free assets so you can blend withdrawals in different years, or have that big, the big trip or the big purchase without bumping tax brackets.
Splitting it. So if you're in a lower, we're talking about Roth, right? If it makes sense for you. The other is if you're in the middle tax bracket, to your point, splitting it where you can help get that tax deduction now, and you're building a tax-free vehicle later. And then, Tommy, if you're in a higher tax bracket, this is where, again, when you contribute to those pre-tax accounts, that's helping you out. I mean, in terms of giving you a tax deduction, but when you retire, that's 100% reportable coming out. So that's where you kind of started talking about it, Tommy. Roth conversions. Roth conversions. And so let's talk a little bit about that and what we're trying to find in terms of what makes sense for people to convert.
Subject to tax laws changing in the future, but by and large, that Roth, you pay taxes now. If you can find, a good year or a good time to make a conversion, that money grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. And for those who may not have the plans to spend all their assets or want to leave tax-efficient assets to heirs, that Roth is tax-free to beneficiaries as well.
Well, we have a whole episode on that as well, and so I encourage all of you to listen in. Okay, so we got 2 more of the 6 things to do before you retire, so stay with us right after the break. Welcome back. We just talked about a lot so far. So we are going through 6 things to do before you retire. We just went through making sure you have a plan. We want you to boost your savings. When do you take Social Security? What tax efficient strategies are out there for you? But Tommy, we're on the next one. And what do we all need?
Health insurance.
We need health insurance. And so what age is Medicare?
65.
65. So the question is if you're going to retire prior to age 65, what are you going to do for health insurance?
You have options. You have one spouse continue working, carrying insurance. Are you working, maybe a part-time job that offers benefits? You have the marketplace plan available to you. You have COBRA, private insurance. Maybe your employer allows you to take retiree health care. You have, certain faith-based ministries of offering insurance. But you have some options available to you prior to Medicare.
Well, the big thing is it's tough out there. I mean, things aren't cheap when it comes to health insurance. And so that's the thing. I mean, so many times we have, clients, they have the financial means to retire, but insurance, Tommy, is just, it's crazy. I mean, in terms of how expensive it is. But then once you turn 65, I mean, you're smooth sailing now, because now you are on Medicare. The question is, what are all the different parts of Medicare? Do I choose a supplement? Do I do a Medicare Advantage plan? I mean, there's a lot to it. So why don't we dive into Medicare real quick? And the first part is Part A, okay? Part A is your hospital insurance, okay? And it's free for most people. And then, Tommy, you have Part B. And so for Part B, that helps with your major medical. There's a standard premium on that in terms of what you would be paying. But Tommy, let's talk about something on Part B. Part B is means tested. And what that means is the higher your income, the more you pay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so that is IRMA. It's an income-related monthly adjustment amount. And so
that was pretty good. That was a mouthful.
I got that one. But yes, it is. We tend to see people, don't apply to it. It's right around, $210,000 is kind of where the first threshold is, and then you go beyond that for a married couple. But yes, as you make more money, you pay more for that Medicare premium.
Well, we just talked about Roth conversion, right? Right before the break. But if you convert too much, right? I mean, that is additional income. And so you got to be careful of that, where that could pop you where you're paying more in terms of your Part B premium. So now, once you have your Part A and your Part B, Tommy, that's not enough. That's not enough. You need to cover the gaps. So that's where you have options, where you can choose a Medigap plan, or what a lot of our viewers would know it as is a Medicare supplement, or you choose the Part C, which is Medicare Advantage. So why don't we talk real quick about Medigap plans?
For those, nearing or hitting 65, I'm sure you're getting bombed with phone calls and
Oh, yeah.
mail, and everybody's got the new greatest plan. But one of the considerations with Medigap plans is the in-network, out-of-network, comparison. And Medigap plans, your plan travels with you. So for those who like to travel, take vacations, for those in Iowa, you're covered in Florida like you are in Iowa.
So there's also Medicare Advantage plans. That's another one. And so there's some plans that allow that as well too. Again, it's very important, folks. People are very passionate when it comes to their Medicare plans, okay? I mean, keep in mind, there's not one blanket for everybody. Medigap fits some people. Medicare Advantage fits some people. I mean, again, it just depends on your situation. But once again, what makes sense for you? The other thing too, Tommy, when it comes to Medicare, it's not like a group healthcare plan. It is individual insurance. So if for married couples, you're going to have your own Medicare plan, and then for a husband and the wife is going to have her own Medicare plan. I mean, it's totally different. Now, real quick, just have a little fun with this. So what I would tell clients if they're both on Medicare, I would just tease them and say, hey, you know what? How about you pick Aetna and then you pick Blue Cross Blue Shield? That way, when money comes or when your statements come in or your documents, you know whose is whose. So, anyways, you do what you need to do, but the big thing is just get a head start on your future healthcare costs, especially with another part of Medicare. That's Part D, and that's your prescription plan.
Yeah, it's really important to know what medications you're on and just evaluate different coverages across all of your plan options and the costs associated with different prescriptions, generics, all of those pieces.
Now let's move on to the next final piece, and that is start thinking about your retirement income. So I talked about it earlier, and I said that money is like oxygen. It is, right? It's a means to get us somewhere, but I tell you what, Tommy, we also want people's bank accounts in terms of their emergency funds to have a nice cushion in there, because when your savings gets low, it feels like you're on life support. It doesn't feel good. But when you have a nice emergency fund, you can breathe, right? You have oxygen. So let's talk about retirement income. And so first is getting to know your income sources.
A lot of the private employers have kind of worked away from, offering those pensions. And so if Social Security is your paycheck for life, then you're looking at other sources of income. You have your IRAs, 401ks, and other investment accounts that you're looking at drawing on for that retirement income. If we're looking at a common rule, maybe that if you're budgeting a 4% withdrawal rate, kind of subject to how you're invested, what your plans are. But as a general rule, if you're looking at 4%, plus what you may have for Social Security at different ages, kind of gives you an idea of where to start.
Right, and the other thing too, Tommy, is we want to know how each one of those sources is taxed. And we talked about that a little earlier on, because every bucket could potentially be taxed differently, right? And so we all have this income need, this lifestyle that we want to maintain. The question is which lever do you pull in terms of those tax buckets? Your IRA, your Roth, your Social Security, and to get to that number in the most tax efficient way possible.
It's a big consideration and something in retirement that you have a little more control than you did while you were working.
Right. The whole purpose of this, Tommy, is just taking control of your retirement. And that is why we do a 15-minute retirement review. This is where people have the opportunity to give us a call. Talk to us for 15 minutes, whether it's about your retirement, your Social Security, taxes, your 401k, whatever you need help with.
Yeah, we think we can cover, common topics or some quick questions through those calls, and it definitely encourage people to take advantage of that.
We do. I mean, folks, we are truly here to help you, guide you, give you the tools that you need to make an informed decision during your own retirement journey, because everybody's situation is different. So I hope you learned a few things today. We want you to get retirement ready. Be sure to like us on Facebook. And also remember, we are on the weekend with our show every weekend, going over a number of different retirement topics. Stay tuned next week. We'll catch you next time right here on Retire Vivid.
Do you have questions about your retirement plan, or do you want to know if you are on the right track? We are here to help. Simply go to retirevivid.com or call the number below to schedule a 15-minute retirement review. You can speak with us about taxes, Social Security, your 401k, or any quick retirement questions at no cost to you. We are here to make retirement vivid. Schedule your 15-minute retirement review today.
Thanks for watching Retire Vivid. Want to see more? Like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with exclusive Vivid content. Plus, be sure to watch our show Retire Vivid every weekend. We're here to help you get retirement ready.